Salve, salve, maestro here. And today we are finally finishing our Brazilian run. And with no delay, our last wonder was unlocked, that is Brasília. Brasília nowadays is the capital of Brazil. It was actually built in 1950, but the idea of creating a city at the middle of the country existed since the 17th. So I will start to build it just for fun. So we discovered the source of the Nile. That's okay. I'm just doing that for role playing. You can see there's nothing a lot special about doing it. It's not like the Monga Rolf mod that you have a whole section dedicated to natural science, botanic, anthropology, chemistry, and other things that I think Paradox need to add in a later DLC, because like the 19th century was the science century. It was the time that everyone were wanting to discover new elements, to understand how the universe works, and physics, engineering. Like, it's a very, very cool mod. If you've never played it, play it. It's very, very good. The only problem is that it hurts the performance, but it is worth it. And now our population can retire. Like, it's the same of the last legislations I just did because I can. But there is a little bit of reasoning because I'm starting to get a little bit of unemployment. Like, when I started this legislation, there was something like 150,000. So it already decreased, and we can see the effect of it, but it was increasing and might continue to increase. Oswaldo Cruz is one of the most important Brazilian scientists. He was a physician and a public health expert. He helped Brazil to eradicate a lot of diseases like small fever, yellow pox by distributing, developing, and creating vaccines. And nowadays, there is an institution named after him, which is probably one of the most, if not the most important institute in Brazil at the development of vaccines. So a cool thing happened is that just after we had the Oswaldo Cruz event, which is modded, now we have the base game event, which is the research about human vaccines. So very funny thing to happen. Now that we've unlocked pneumatic tools, I can finally create Christ the Redeemer, or Cristo Redentor. This is gonna be our actually final wonder, because like I said that Brasilia would be, but seriously, I just forgot about Christ the Redeemer. I was just about to say that I'm not anymore into wars. Like, I would just try to play the diplomatic game, try to put Mexico into my power block, because like the time is running very, very slow. Like, the OBS is hurting my PC a lot. And then right after I finished my Ethiopian war, Great Britain declared war on them, trying to grab like half of their country. Not half, all of their country. And now I need to defend them. Like, I will defend, of course. Ooh, maybe Venezuela side with them. Interesting, because then I can catch Venezuela as my puppet, like, and be done with war. Like, no more wars. I'm tired of it. And after almost 60 years in real life, it was 49. Peter II died, and now Isabel de Bragança is our empress, but just for a little bit of time, because I'm just gonna finish this war and go for Council Republic. Finally, they accept the peace deal, the white peace. And yeah, 600 battalions only here. There was even a time that there was 400 and only 100 on our side, and we managed to hold them here. We just ended the war with the British, and then they decided, okay, let's take Egypt, and they are gonna take like all of Egypt. But then what happened? Ethiopia sided with Egypt. Like, we just saved them, and now they won the fight back. At least the British didn't put any war goal on them, so I'll just let they roll over Ethiopia. Like, I won't interfere in the war as long as they don't put any war goals in my protectorate. I just wanted to understand how two marginalized interest groups are leading to a revolution that can go over 91%. And we became a council republic finally. Although we have a revolution, but it might disappear quick. And then we just have left one law to pass to make like the most optimal country possible. Okay, you could go for woman suffrage, but still, I don't think it's very, very necessary as a American country. But now finally, we just need to go cooperative ownership. I'll just wait a little bit to avoid a possible revolution. And I just want to say something is that this flag is very, very ugly. Like there are a lot of socialist Brazilian flags in the internet. They could have done a lot better. The Coffee and Milk Republic was a political situation that happened in Brazil where the aristocracy and the landowners of Minas Gerais and Sao Paulo would dominate the national politics. So a very clear way to see that is that each election they would switch the president. So one time it would be a president from São Paulo, the other president from Minas Gerais, and the names to represent the most produced thing in both states, milk being the most produced in Minas Gerais and coffee the most produced in São Paulo. You can let them get the power, like let's say they get the power because this is gonna do nothing since they have 1% IG cloud, or you can take away the power that again won't change anything, so you can do whatever you want. And we created the British dream because now all of our African colonies are connected. I wanted to colonize this area, but sadly it's a Moroccan claim, so I just can't. But I always find very good to do it. Finally, we have cooperative ownership, which is the best economical law in the end of the game. Just see the standard of living that probably will skyrocket by 6 points, something like it. And this is probably the most optimal setup for a country in Victoria Free, like this type of legislation, institutions, control over Africa, over Asia, with a massive power block, massive army. I will go for another legislation, which is woman suffrage, just because of the event and because the run is ending. So there's no point of wanting more babies, you know. We are already ending our run anyways, so let's do everything that we can. Now everyone is equal in our country, not only white, rich, Catholic men. I said that I wouldn't do any wars, but the temptation of making this journal entry that I never did before was very big because this miners war here in Africa after you unlock some techs are the most easy thing to do, even with the game speed being very slow because you get no infamy, your troops are much, much better, and no European will try to stop you. The only one different was the conquest of Egypt because I wanted to do this other journal entry that I actually never seen before. And then United States stepped in, but we're naval invade them, and they just can't compete against us. So the revolta da vacina or the vaccine revolt was similar to what we saw during the pandemic. So basically, the same guy that we spoke before about vaccination that helped to end a lot of disease in Brazil was the leader of a campaign that was implemented by the government to force the people to vaccinate. But since the people knew nothing about the vaccine, and by nothing, I don't mean like they couldn't trust in the vaccine. It's because they literally didn't know what vaccine was. They didn't want it and ended up creating a revolt. So basically, you can make it mandatory and decrease mortality, or let the people have the freedom, which will increase mortality. Much more delayed than I wanted, but the Indian uprising actually happened, and maybe they will win this war. Like, if you take a look at the amount of troops that they have, and being honest, I think that they should have at least a decent technology. Okay, they have skirmisher infantry, and the British probably trench on the middle of it. I think that they have a very good chance of actually being independence. Basically, from the top 10 most productive countries in the world, 6 of them are in our market. And being more specific, one of them is us, and the other 5 are our puppets. This is one of the events that I was waiting in order to finish the campaign. And this is Santos Dumont, probably the most important scientific and Brazilian engineer. And most people in the world don't know about it. But in Brazil, and as I understand France a little bit, there is at least a debate on whether who invented the airplane. So basically the history that almost everyone in the world learns is that the Wright brothers that are from the United States created the airplane. But what is teached in Brazil is that the actual father of aviation is Santos Dumont. And the whole debate is around 2 big topics. The first one, the Wright brothers did everything privately and then went to the world saying that they created the airplane without showing it to anyone, while Santos Dumont made all of his tests in the middle of Paris. But the most important point that I think that's the most important is that even though if we consider that the Wright brothers are telling the truth, the thing that they created is simply not an airplane. And the reason is that the Wright brothers airplane needed to be put on a catapult in order to have enough velocity and speed to stay in the air, while the Santos Dumont airplane had enough power to leap off by its own force. And if you think about it, the difference between a Predator and an airplane is that an airplane can lift off and the Predator don't. So the argument that I think that makes the most sense is that the Wright brothers actually created a Predator that had an engine in order to increase its flight time, while Santos Dumont actually created the first airplane called 14 Bis, as it says here in this test, as placing a glider on a catapult and calling it flying is the same as throwing a chicken and say it can fly, isn't it, Wright brothers? I should have said it before, but I actually recommend you to pause the videos and actually read the text of the events because I tried to add a little bit of context and history to give a more technical perspective since Brazilian history isn't something that is vastly talked about, not even in Brazil. So I recommend you to do it and read some curiosities. I need to say that they did a very great job to represent these harvest conditions here. Like, they are actually very impressive in my perspective. And just as Oswaldo Cruz, Carlos Chaga is one of the most important scientists at the medicine area in Brazil. And basically, he's so important because he was one of the few, if not the only person, to ever document the entire cycle of a disease since it's reproducing all the way to the treatment. And just to prove my point about Santos Dumont, the first flight happened in Brazil. So remember when I told you about the Teatro Amazonas? So basically, if you exploit the Amazonian state of Amazonas, you actually get a special event that you can see here, the Great Opera or Paris of the Tropics, and it increased the Arts Academy throughput. Well, this is a reference to the Teatro Amazonas. So there was already a in-game event about it. Being honest, like I'm already very, very tired of this game. And the only reason I was playing until now is because I wanted to see what this journal entry is because I don't record completing it. But although I subjugated 80% of Africa, it seems like it's still not 95%. But this was one of the topic, and the other ones is the last exclusive Brazilian company, which is Petrobras. This is the national oil company. It is one of the biggest companies in Latin America. And I guess that in 2012, it were in the top 10 most valuable companies in the world. But beyond that, I think that's all. We managed to do basically everything we wanted. Like, I didn't control India or China, but seriously, I just don't need to. Because if you see the market, like, there is no good that is lacking or overpriced that I need to go over countries to conquer resources and whatever. Our stats are completely fine. And to end this run, I will show the data because I think that the YouTubers need to start showing the data because I'm always very curious about it. If you don't want to see it, the episode end here. I hope you like it. Subscribe, like, and comment. And I'll see you next time. But if you want to watch the stats, here you go. Mm, mm, mm. Mm, mm, mm. Um, mm, 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 mm.